Okay, so this is our last video for the value scales and shading techniques, and we're going to finish out with stippling. Now what you'll notice right away is that this rectangle is a lot skinnier than the other ones that we've been working in, and you'll see why in just a second. It's for time purposes for these little tutorials so that we aren't here all day long. Alright, now just like I did before, I'm going to separate this rectangle into 5 boxes with 4 lines, and I'm going to get rid of the line that would be in between box 1 and 2. The reason we do that afterwards is so that you have fairly even boxes in between. So, and I'm going to number them 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we're remembering that as it goes from 1, it gets darker all the way to 5, which is as dark as we can go. Now, I'm going to keep my marker out for this because in stippling, you want to use a marker. You can use a pencil, but because the point is so fine, it would take a lot longer, and for our purposes, we don't want to be here for an hour while I fill in this box with little tiny dots, because that is what stippling is. Stippling is a series of dots that fill in the space to make value, and just like when we did hatching and cross hatching, the closer together those dots are, the darker the value, and the further apart they are, the lighter the value. It's very similar to how pixels look, and it's really good for things that you don't want to have very sharp lines in. Stippling is really great for shading natural things like flowers and leaves and things like that you want to have a little more out of focus look to them. Okay, so just like we've always done, we're going to start in box 3 because we want to start at 50%, because 1 is 0 and 5 is 100. And it's our mid-tone, remember that. That's our medium shade. So we want to fill box 3 about half of the way up with little dots. You'll probably hear me. And I'm holding my marker straight up and down because I don't want them to be lines. I just want the tip of the marker to touch the paper. So I'm going to do that until I feel like my box is about halfway full of little dots. Something very similar to that. And just like we've done in all of our other boxes for our different types, we're going to do 50% in box 4 and 5 also, because that's a little bit of a time saver later on. And we know that they're going to get darker anyway, so we can go ahead and do some of that work now. Alright, that looks about like it should. Okay, so we're going to go down to box 2, and just like before, it's halfway between 0 and 50, which is about 25%. So I'm going to dot in box 2, spreading my dots apart until I feel like it's about 25% covered. Now with the other ones, in pencil shading we had to work and blend to make a smooth gradient. In cross hatching and hatching, we weren't as concerned about it being smooth, but I did show you a little bit on how to blend. But with stippling, it kind of naturally does it all by itself. So, because again, you're working in dots. So in box 1, I can put a couple of little dots where that line would have been, but we really don't want anything in box 1 because it is 0%. So, now that we've got that done, we're going to come back down to box 5 like we normally do, and we're going to fill it in to 100%. We're going to do this with dots, and again, just like with hatching and cross hatching, you want to do the dots for this. Don't just color it in because you lose the effect that it gives you. And it's specific, and you'll see it. It looks different, and it's used for different types of things. Like I said, it's really good for stuff that is round, stuff that's natural, like flower petals and things like that, because you have a little bit more control over the fading. because it's dots. So this is where you'll also see why we made this rectangle a lot skinnier than the other ones, because it would take us a long time to fill this in, and nobody wants to watch a video about dotting that long, just in general. Okay, so again, I want to get as much white space as possible, but I'm not gonna sit here and try and get absolutely every little single white dot covered. Okay, so there's my 100%, and then just like before, we're going to go from 50 to 100, so in between at box 4 is 75%. So I'm going to fill box 4 in until I feel like it's about 75% covered. So you'll have more white space in this one. And you'll be able to see as I'm doing this that it does very naturally transition from one to the other pretty smoothly. Okay, there we go. I think it's about 75%. So you can see that it goes from 100% to 0% pretty smoothly, and as that happens, the space in between the dots increases, just like it did between all of the lines and cross-hatching and hatching. Okay, so that is stippling, and that is our last one.